Well, hello everyone. This video was supposed to be about Deadhouse Gates with just a brief mention of Knights of Knives, but as I started to write down some talking points, I realized this needed to be a separate video. Maybe it will be a rather short one. We'll see. Spoilers, of course. I am discussing a book, and in doing so, I will have to talk about the things that actually happens in the book. Right? People are too spoiler sensitive these days. All right. Knight of Knives. I decided for this reread to include other books set in the Malazan universe, which I hadn't read before. So the first of those books were Knight of Knives by Ian C Esslemont. And I read it between Gardens and Deadhouse Gates. First of all, expectations. What I'd heard about this book was that a lot of Malazan fans think that Esslemont is not as good of a writer as Erikson, to put it mildly, and that Knight of Knives may be the worst of his books, or at least enjoyable. So imagine my surprise when I found myself reading a perfectly enjoyable and well-written fantasy story. Who would have thought? Okay, so his writing is not quite up to the level of Erikson, but that would be a quite high bar to set, and I don't think you should do that. They are different people, different writers, different writing styles to an extent. Just going by writing style, Esslemont. There are a lot of fantasy series that I have read which are blown out of the water by this book and by Esslemont's writing. So no, it's not poor, it's not bad. I don't know where that comes from, really. And as I slowly make my way through the 10 very big books again, it's nice to have like this single contained story about half or less thereof of your average Malazan tomb, and only 2 POVs at that. So it will probably not come as a surprise that when I tell you that I am very much into tabletop role-playing games myself. I've been playing actively and somewhat regularly since the summer of 1993, so 30 years, I guess. That's a long time. And I am aware, of course, that the Malazan world has its root in gaming, and nowhere so far does that show more than it does here. Because those main characters, they have to have been rolled up. I mean, are you kidding me? We have a young girl longing for adventure, and we have a grizzled veteran with a hidden past living in a tavern. So that was fun, I think. Awesome to get to know Malaz City a bit. We get to meet Fisher, whose writing appears so frequently in the main series. We get a little bit of the Stormwall, right? The whole Stormwall thing, when I read Knight of Knives, felt like a completely new thing. But as I reread the main series, I find small mentions of it here and there, and I think I've heard somewhere that it's a key aspect in Stonewielder that I haven't read yet. And of course, Faradan Sort in the Bone Hunters that I'm currently reading. She was at the Stormwall, and speaking of the Bone Hunters, I know that Temper will show up there eventually, which will be interesting because I have no memory of that character whatsoever from my first read. The whole concept of Knight of Knives also, I mean, Knight of Knives, not the book, but the Knight of Knives that is an event that takes place in this book. So from that perspective, the concept of Knight of Knives occurring gives me kind of vibes of the Purge movies, only on a supernatural, almost cosmic horror level. It's like this night where it's a free-for-all, where horrendous things from otherworldly dimensions just comes in and raise havoc across the city, and its inhabitants just need to keep their heads down and hope to survive. Um, a bit of a hint of a cosmic horror there, almost. Something I really liked about this one, Edgewalker, who in the main series he just randomly pops up from time to time. But here we get to spend some time with him, and makes me even more confused regarding his nature, and I just love it. I love his complete respect. No, sorry, his complete lack of respect for Shadow Throne, as just another scheming megalomaniac ruler in a row of scheming megalomaniac rulers of this weird little realm where he walks on the edge. It was fun and a bit of a surprise to learn Artan's true identity. Then, as I later on reread Memories of Ice, and Artantos shows up, which was a character I had completely forgotten about. And then suddenly pieces fell into place. I had completely forgotten that entire storyline, if it's even a storyline. It's not that important. Anyway, had hoped for some more details regarding, what actually went on with Shadow Throne and Cotillion at this eventful night. Maybe the path to Ascendancy books will provide more background. It was hard to keep the varying factions apart, and which faction was on which side. So I had a hard time figuring out who the Shadow Cultists were, for example. Were they supporting Shadow Throne, or did they want to defend the throne of Shadow from these usurpers or conquerors? We learn that the former is the case, but it wasn't that obvious. It was a bit confusing. A Malazan book being a bit confusing, who would have thought? I do very much love the ambiguous ending, the "Why are you killing us?" line. Just one of those heartbreaking lines they're so frequent in the main series. I'm thinking of quotes such as "Do you pity me?" from Guardians of the Moon, for example. That demon that Troll saves in Midnight Tides. So I have no idea what's going on here. But when it comes to Malazan, ambiguous is my favorite flavor. Yeah, those were my thoughts on Night of Knives. I will soon record a video on Deadhouse Gate. I think I'm on a roll. I'm gonna go for 2 videos in the same evening here. But first, I'm gonna go and kill that mule. See ya.